All right. So I think we are finally live here on Facebook. If you only knew how much nonsense went into the past, how long have we been on the phone? Like 30 minutes now?
I don't know, 15, 20 minutes for sure.
Yeah, we've been on, but I think we are actually finally live now. And we
I
are.
don't see.
We are. You can go ahead and refresh it. So I'm going to. Okay, here we go. Welcome into the Lanyap Show. It is February 12th, 2021. For anyone watching this on Alt Tech, I salute you. This will be a video that was recorded on Facebook Live on my personal account, but I will have it re-uploaded to BitChute and Minds.com, by the way. I invite everybody to get accounts on BitChute and Minds. I invite anybody that gets an account on Minds.com. By the way, you see any memes or anything you want to share, plaster that all over Facebook and Twitter. That's the way you fight back. But anyways, it is Friday. Got my dad on the line again. Kelly is once again in the hospital, and we're not, we'll have him on, and we'll let him. We're not going to talk about his situation. We'll respect his privacy on that, and we will have him on soon as he's able. We're not going to stress him out too much, but when he does come on, we'll let him talk about what he wants to talk about. But anyways, for now, I said I've been wanting to do the Facebook Live, so I got my dad here, and what's up?
Oh, not much. I'm still trying to pick it up over here. I can't find it. So
It should be, if you just go to, I believe, my Facebook profile, it is there. I got it on regular Facebook. It says we are live. Oh yeah, I'm there. We're live.
okay.
So we're doing it. Again, go ahead. If you're watching this on Facebook, go ahead, send us comments, and we'll keep an eye on the comment section. But we do have the podcast rolling. We are recording. So we'll just get into the show, and we'll see how it rolls from there. I started doing this thing a while back, and I got prompted to do it from some of the people I work with. They were doing, like, every day they'd post one or two YouTube videos of music, a band, a song, best of the 70s, because I work with people in the radio business. I'll just leave it at that. And it inspired me to do something I call Songs You Don't Know But You Should, where I go, and it's a lot of my favorite songs that may not be the most popular songs that people know. And I posted, the YouTube videos on Facebook so people can check it out. And I did one again that this afternoon. It's been a while since I did one, but this was Live Wire by AC/DC, which is one of my absolute favorite songs ever. And it just showed up on the playlist while I was picking up the kids from school, and I was jamming that song. I listened to it 3 times in a row, and it got me in the mood to talk about music. So I know you went to a ton of concerts in your year. So I want to talk about music. I want to talk about live bands and concerts and some of your favorites, and I mean, a lot of my musical taste for what I've learned and grew up on is directly from you. So that's kind of what I want to talk about on this show, and we'll see where it goes from there. So, are you game?
Oh yeah. I have a wide range of music, uh, but some people think that I'm a little close minded on some of them. Well, and I'm gonna tell you the ones that I don't like, and that's the ones that just see how many curse words they can say and can get all and see how vulgar they can get,
Uh huh.
or that they're just trying to. I guess it's rappers because I'll do like some rap, but some rap I don't like because it doesn't make sense. And I'm not one to be, I've always grew up a song's supposed to tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it don't tell a story, then to me it's not a good song. So that's where I'm at. I like all ranges, all kind of music, but if it doesn't tell a story, I don't think I'll like it.
One of my favorite things to do is to go on YouTube. There's a guy, his account is Jamel, aka Jamal or something like that. And he does reviews, and he is a big hip hop guy. Like, he grew up with hip hop his entire life, and he started doing this thing where people recommend different songs, a bunch of classic songs, 70s, 80s, 90s rock and country that he's never heard before. Or maybe he's heard while he works and it just kind of plays on the radio while he works, but he doesn't really know this stuff because he grew up all on hip-hop. And he gets to listen to these songs and blows his mind, you know. Music is kind of like the universal language. Everybody can dig it, so to speak. So he's one of my favorite guys. Jamel, that's Jamel, a.k.a. Jamal, on YouTube, and you can check out his reaction videos to a plethora of songs. I mean, he does all kinds of things. But he talks about that a lot. He talks about a lot of the songs that he likes during these reaction videos have to do with telling a story. There's something that is, there's a beginning, middle, and end to it. A lot of the songs, I agree, that come out today are, I'm cold like ice, I'm hot like fire. It's all metaphors, but it doesn't tell a story and it doesn't mean anything. It's just less saying how many metaphors I can make. Strong like whiskey, sharp like attack, whatever. And like, that's the entire song. It's just nothing but metaphors. It's ridiculous and frankly, it's stupid. But a lot of the music back then really did tell a story, even all the way back to music that didn't have any lyrics, like Mozart and you know, Bach and all of these guys. Just the instruments themselves told the story. I mean, there's a reason why a lot of this classical music is still around today and used, and they used it in Looney Tunes because they would create a show with Looney Tunes, and they didn't even really need any dialogue. You just watched the action on the screen, and the orchestra was playing these classical songs. Well, these classical songs were made centuries, at least 1 century before like the video was ever created, but they could put the music to the action on the screen and make it make sense. The music told the story. The stuff you get nowadays, and especially if you strip the lyrics from it totally, that music doesn't tell any story at all. It's like the same thing just looped over and over and over again. The intricacies and the creation, it just not nearly what it used to be. So I agree with you there. And I know you said people think you're closed-minded, but from growing up with you and what the music that you exposed me to, it was not one single genre. We were all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, when you can go from Black Sabbath to Conway Twitty. That's, you know.
And that's absolutely 2 of my favorites. The musicianship in Black Sabbath and the unique things that they did. They brought in the darkness and the metal. They were one of the first really dark metal bands. And then Conway, the man's voice, the soul that he could bring in.
Yeah.
And I mean, love both of those bands. I grew up on both of those. I mean, you play that. I think one of my very first memories of listening to music, and this may be a false memory that I have created in my head, but like I have this very vague memory of walking around like a counter that may have had a record player on it with like a Mel McDaniel record playing.
Very possible.
That how possible is that? I mean, possibly Baby's Got Her Blue Jeans On, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. We
But
used to have a record player, and we did have that song.
That's one of my memories that I would say would be one of my first memories ever of like moving around a counter that had that record playing on it. And that ended up being one of, my favorite songs in my childhood.
Right. Yep.
And then I remember riding in your truck, listening to, my God, the very first thing that comes to mind is Keith Whitley. Okay, let's talk about the Keith Whitley tape before we talk about the other ones. Was that tape an album, or was that like a bunch of songs you pulled elsewhere? Was that a tape you bought, or did you make that tape? What is the Keith Whitley tape?
I think it was just a regular. You sure Keith Whitley? You sure it's not Randy Travis?
I know the Randy Travis too, but you had a Keith Whitley tape.
Yeah, I had some tapes, and I'm not sure if it's one that I just made up, or put all kind of songs on, or it was probably one of his albums.
It's a lot of songs that I know, and when I go back and I look at the discography, I don't know if it's like one of the particular albums or if it wasn't just a greatest hits tape.
Yeah, it was
that was put out.
Greatest hits. I think that's what it was. It had Miami, Don't Close Your Eyes. I mean, yeah, it was probably the greatest hit.
And Brother Jukebox.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, was it Mark Chestnut or somebody that ended up doing the song, and that's the one that plays on the radio all the time.
Yeah, but I think that Brother Jukebox, the one I had, I don't know if it wasn't Randy Travis.
No, I know the Keith Whitley version. I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure it was Keith.
Okay,
because
was Keith, then.
That's the version I know and I love, and I remember having that discussion with some of the people I work with, because we play the popular version all the time, the one everybody knows, and I'm like, man, y'all know Keith Whitley's version of that song? Because that's the one I grew up on, and I much prefer it. I tell people my middle name is Keith, and y'all named me after Keith Whitley. Even though his I was born before his career really took off, but it was a short career anyways.
Yeah.
So the Keith Whitley tape, I don't know, man, because I remember the tracks that were on it. Did you have Tell Lori I Love Her on that tape?
Yep.
Then you must have made that. You must have made that tape, because that never got any radio play.
Right. Tell Lori I Love Her, Miami, my Amy. I'm not sure all of the, but yeah.
Brother Jukebox, I believe, was on there. When you say Nothing at All, come on. I mean, yeah. I know George Jones, and He Stopped Loving Her Today, greatest country music song of all time, but God, dog, when you say Nothing at All, it's got to be on that list.
It's right there, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that tape. Go ahead. You broke up a little bit on the Conway.
And also Conway's Hello, Darling.
Mm.
I mean, that's one of...
and working where I work, and we do Conway, and his popular ones are Hello, Darling. And, a lot of his big songs, but there's one song that is absolutely incredible. And some local guys around here. I'm talking about Ashton. At least Ashton Dupre covers it, and the name is escaping me. But it is so powerful, and I hadn't known that song as a kid, but I've known it in the last few years, and it's become one of my absolute favorite songs of all time by Conway. Oh my goodness, what is that song? It's escaping me. You know, look, you gotta remember, Ashton sings it like it's part of his repertoire, and he is super awesome at it.
Oh yeah, I know.
Something time. Not ending time, not closing time. Goodbye time. Goodbye time.
Yeah.
If it's too late. Dude.
Yeah.
That song was incredible. That guy could belt it out.
Yeah.
You remember that Conway Twitty t-shirt I had? That was like a nightgown on me.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Ashton Dupre sings one that a lot of the older people my age will remember, but there's a lot of them that they know the version of the song now.
Mm-hmm.
But they're, and that's Tennessee Whiskey. But Ashton sings the George Jones version. It's the same song, but it's sung there's no blues in it like
Stapleton. Yeah, Stapleton put the blue, and look, I love it, and I love the blues, and I love what Chris Stapleton did. But man, George Jones is George Jones, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, what he did was, I love both versions of the song. So he does the George Jones version.
Yeah. Yeah, Ashton does George Jones version. Yeah. Well, my favorite all-time rock and roll band, it's favorite concert I've ever went to, and it's probably one reason is probably because it was the very first concert I've ever went to. I was probably 17 years old, and we took off to Baton Rouge at the LSU Assembly Center. But this band, almost every song that they had went number one or very close to it, and that's the Eagles.
Yeah. Boy, what a band. California Rock is what they called it. Yeah. I was listening to a song this afternoon, and then it hit me, and it's not one of their big songs, but the song was Get Over It.
Yeah.
Don, talking about people not wanting to work and still want on the money, and they complain about every little thing. That song is as valid today as it ever was. I mean, if you're a Republican, a conservative, go look up Get Over It by the Eagles. Don Henley, the way they wrote that song, that is very much that and Dirty Laundry. Dirty Laundry's, I have such an appreciation for that song. It's all about how dirty the news is, how dirty these reporters are trying to dig up, dirty laundry.
Yeah. If you take Hotel California by the Eagles, and I mean, right there, it's got to be the greatest hit. It would be a greatest hit with some other band. That the Hotel California would be named whatever band's greatest hit.
It's certainly it's one of the most played songs of all time on the radio. I mean, that that's the song that gets all the complaints. Oh, y'all play that song too much. Everybody plays that song, but it is the most popular song. If you didn't play it, you'd have a problem.
Yeah, they'd request it.
Yeah.
But I mean, that album, the Hotel California album, I mean, it's got everything on there. I think it's got Lion Eyes, Desperado. I mean, you could. There's not, normally when you buy an album, you listen to 1 or 2 songs and then that's it.
Mm-hmm.
that album, Hotel California, you're gonna listen to every one.
The talent, Glenn Fry, obviously Don Henley. You had Joe Walsh. You know,
Yeah.
even the bass player. I don't know if he had much of a solo career, and he only got to sing a few songs, but like "Love Will Keep Us Alive," he was the guy that did the really high notes. When you're lonely, love will keep us alive. That guy, they could all sing. The entire band could sing.
Yeah.
Felder, like all of them, it was incredible. They could all have their own band and sing, and it was just a magical joining. Did you ever hear about Take It Easy? You know how that song started? You know who originally wrote like the first verse to Take It Easy? Eddie Money.
Eddie Money.
So Eddie Money and Don Henley were roommates, if I'm not mistaken, or at least they lived in the same apartment complex, and they were goofing around, and Eddie Money was working on Take It Easy. He had the first verse written and nothing else. I was running down the road trying to loosen my load. I got 7 women on my mind. And he had the chords, he had the melody down, he just didn't have the words. And
Right.
Don Henley wrote the second verse and I believe the chorus. It's a girl, my lord, in a flatbed Ford, slowing down to take a look at me. It's like Don Henley wrote the rest, and Eddie Money was just like, here, you can have it. You wrote most of the damn song now. It's yours. And that was the Eagles' first ever hit.
Yeah.
But that was Eddie Money's song. By the way, he passed away in the last week or two.
Wow.
Yeah,
Money
crazy.
Man.
Take Me Home Tonight and all of that stuff. Eddie Money's, I mean, he's one of my favorite. Take Me Home Tonight. Oh, my God. That brings me back. You know, when I hear that song, Take Me Home Tonight, it brings me back to an old VCR video camcorder recording we had, I believe, at Aunt Linda's house or something like that during New Year's. Where y'all were jamming Eddie Money, Take Me Home Tonight, and the family was dancing. We were having some kind of New Year's Eve party.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, and Rod Stewart. Cool. I don't know. Well, but I used to like Rod Stewart a lot. I used to like his music. I mean,
a lot of people aren't as familiar with the stuff Rod Stewart did with the Faces, like
right.
Hot Legs.
Yeah,
man, that song rocked, dude. He rocked hard. I know he has like those old slow ballads and love ballads and stuff, but my goodness, he had some good rock and roll stuff too.
Oh yeah.
All right, so we were talking about concerts. I want you to take me back. So the Eagles was your first ever concert? You sure?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Take me back to the Eagles concert. Take me back to that time, and what was that like?
If I'm not mistaken, it was in 1980. We skipped school. we got tickets, so we went. Let me back up. We went to Lafayette at Raccoon Records.
Yes, Raccoon Records.
Okay, and we bought our concert tickets. Well, the day of the concert, we decided, okay, well, we're not going to school that day. And the concert was at night in Baton Rouge, but we going to Baton Rouge. We're gonna cut up and mess around, and we're gonna just take off. So we don't go to school. We pack an ice chest. I don't know how we were able to buy beer, but some of us were able to buy beer or whatever. And we're going down Highway 190, and we in like 2 vehicles. That's how many people are going. We got 2 cars, and one of the guys says, "Oh no, my beer's in the other car." And so we roll down the windows, riding down Highway 90, and we hollered, "Hey, such and such's beer's in your car," and so we were passing beer, riding side by side, hanging out the window, passing beer every time we wanted a beer. And we got there way early, and we were in the parking lot, kind of like tailgating.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you ever been to LSU Assembly Center, but the college is right there. And they had some kids in college and said, hey, y'all come up here. So we went to meet them. We partied with them. And then we went to the concert, partied some more, and then came back to Ville Platte. And when we come back to Ville Platte, I'm not even sure what time it is, but I know it was late, but the pig stand would stay open late. Well, we were hungry. I said, man, I'm hungry. So we went to the pig stand, sat down. I mean, it was just us in there. And they had the old man Berlin. He was cooking hamburgers.
Cool.
And
some good hangover food.
Standing over that grill with that greasy grill, cooking them hamburgers. Boy, I'm like, oh yeah, let's get us a pig stand barbecue hamburger.
How many people passed out before the concert started? Did y'all have any people that were out early?
I think maybe one, and we had to go.
There's always one.
Yeah, only one. No, look, in them days we wasn't just drinking neither,
Well, yeah. Always some other extracurricular activities going on.
In them days, let me tell you something. When you walk into a concert like that, I don't care if you smoked or not, you would get full of smoke. You
didn't know who was smoking because it was just everywhere.
No, but you had some. You could smell it. You could get high. Man.
So that was your first concert, was the Eagles.
First ever concert, yep.
But you're not considering festivals, or was festivals not as big of a thing?
Oh well, no festivals. I wasn't considering festivals. I was considering, just something real big. The only festival was like they wasn't nearly as big. We had the Cotton Festival, and
but y'all didn't get big artists during the small festivals.
Well, no, all we got was like your Uncle Jerry and them. But they did have a pretty good band until their lead singer got killed. I forgot their name of their band.
Last Flight.
Last Flight, yeah, Last Flight. And they would play every year, and we had a few other little bands that would come. But Alabama.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. First time ever I see Alabama. We go to Alexandria at the Coliseum. We think we got something. We got Ronnie Millsap tickets.
Whew.
We going to see Ronnie Millsap. Watch out. Okay. We said, okay, there's this little band that's going to open up for Ronnie Millsap. Their name is Alabama. Look. They blew him out the water. But that was the first time we've ever heard or seen Alabama.
Yeah. Boy, what a group that was. Okay, At that time, I don't know if you remember, but at that time, did the drummer have like that 20-piece kit?
I don't remember.
I've seen videos later on of him playing like a 20-piece kit. I mean, the thing was huge. Now, for a country band, he didn't need all that. But man, they could rock and roll, those dudes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Now my concerts are like, I guess times have changed, because I've seen some pretty big artists at local festivals. Now, granted, those artists were way past their prime, but I would say one of the best concerts that I've ever been to was at a cotton festival, and that was Percy Sledge. You remember that one?
Yeah. but Percy Sledge used to come out to the Vanguard Club when I was young. So I mean, we would kind of see him like it wasn't a house band, but he was, kind of like at the festivals you'd kind of see him. So, but yeah, that Percy Sledge was awesome.
I mean, he's like at the top of my list. That was one of my favorite concerts ever. At that age, I don't remember what year it was, but the man was well past his prime by a couple decades for sure. And
it was probably in the 90s.
He was getting it, man. He was still good.
Yeah.
Now I'm a big Percy Sledge fan. I mean, really, when you look at it, whether it's country, rock and roll, punk rock, even a little hip hop, but the swamp pop stuff, I mean, everything and I owe that to you. We're across the board.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's
okay.
My best.
Go ahead.
Show best, like, not, I don't guess it's band performance, but they were good. But the best light show ever was Boston.
Boston.
And that was at the LSU Assembly Center also.
Okay.
They had like a spaceship that would come down, lights, and man.
I mean, they had guitars and synthesizers, and you didn't know which one was playing at what time, but man, they were.
That's when we had real artists, real musicians. Nowadays you don't have to do all that. Computer does all that for you.
Well, it's all sampled. I mean, and then nowadays, yeah, you're right. They don't even have to sample anymore. They sample artificial sounds. Like, okay, I'm drawing a blank on what this instrument is called. We'll go down a little road here, but I'm going to kind of nerd out because this is something that I'm really into. It's like a Moog. I'm Googling it now. I think it's called a Moog, M-O-O-G. No, the Mellotron. I'm sorry, the Mellotron. Mellotron is totally different. So listen to this. If I can explain this to you without, breaking your mind. The Mellotron was like one of the first, if not the first samplers ever. So what they wanted like a keyboard or piano at that time. We're looking at 1950s, 1960s. That could be an orchestra. Because they couldn't afford to get a full orchestra in for recordings, right? So how do you replicate that? So what they did was they would roll tape on a horn player, and they rolled tape on a harp player, and so forth and so on. And they developed what is essentially like this piano/keyboard contraption that used tape, like real tape. I'm not, back then they recorded on tape. And it's, I'm not going to have all day to specify how the components worked inside this machine, but it was spring-loaded, and when you would push down a key, it would play that pre-recorded note, whether it was the violinist doing across the string, but it was like a real recording. So when you would press the key, it would play that real recording of that note by whatever instrument you had the Mellotron made to. And it only lasted so long. So if you just held that key down, it would last for a few seconds, then it would go away. And when you would let it go, it was spring-loaded. It would pull the tape back down. And when you would press it, there was a little, when you would press the key down, it would push the tape onto this wheel that was constantly spinning, and it would pull it across it would pull the tape across the thing that would make the sound. if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
So this was called the Mellotron. So it was like the first sampler. And probably most notably used in the song Strawberry Fields Forever by the Beatles. That first thing that you hear, I can't replicate it. It's just like, brum, brum, brum. Sounds all warped and stuff. They were using the Mellotron. That was, I don't know how I got on this tangent, but it's fascinating to me because I'm a big fan of organs. Like, I love organs and how those things work and the steam organs and all that. But it was the first sampler ever, and they used real things. But it's like, you get samples all the time now in all of these electronic instruments, but it wasn't on tape. Like, when you play the sample's already like pre-recorded, it's electronic. The point I'm trying to hit home was on the Mellotron, the shit was on tape. The Moody Blues used this, and there was a story where like the roadies hated bringing that thing around because it weighed like 500 pounds. And like they had hit a bump in the road and the tape like went everywhere, and the Moody Blues showed up to do a show and the concert was delayed like 3 hours because they had to go and put back each individual tape back into the Mellotron. I know I got sidetracked on that, but it's one of the most fascinating instruments to me. And after the Mellotron, they really didn't do anything like that again because by the time they got to the 70s and 80s, they started with the synthesizers and everything was electronic. They didn't have to use tape anymore. So it never got really further than the Mellotron.
Right. Do you see any messages on Facebook?
We don't have any comments, but I know we are live, which is fine. If nobody's sending us comments, that's great. Whatever.
I just checked and I still couldn't find it. So
you can't find it? Okay, you should be able to see it if you go to my profile.
I did. It ain't there. So
well, who knows?
But
whatever. But that's kind of, I wanted to talk about music and concerts. All right, so Boston had the Best Lights show. You remember the Eagles? Yeah. What was the weirdest concert you've ever been to?
White Snake.
White Snake. They only had like 2 hits, 1 or 2.
I know. And I had got some tickets at a radio station in Lafayette, and I went to see him.
About what year was this?
Probably 81, 82, somewhere around there.
Well, they
I don't know,
probably around their prime.
Yeah, it was.
And what was weird?
No, I don't know. I just probably because I really didn't know too much of their music. I'm not sure. It's like the whole people were weird. I don't know. Some satanic people, it looked like. I don't know. I mean, did I ever tell you about Hank?
You went go see Hank?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! No, I don't. You may have, but I don't remember.
He comes on stage. He has a gallon of Jack Daniels.
Whew.
Oh no, Evan Williams. I'm sorry. He has a gallon of Evan Williams. He pops the top, breaks it, and he guggles. I mean, he drinks a lot of it, probably a quarter of it. Then he sets it down. He takes his guitar, and he starts playing. He plays about 4 songs, picks it up, and then he drinks again. And he probably got half of that gallon gone by then.
Oh.
And then he sings like 2 songs, puts it down. He takes some more, but not as much. And he says, "If you don't like Hank Williams, you can kiss my ass." And he grabs his shirt, he jerks in the butt fly. Well, he sings about 2 more songs, and after each song, he goes something about that. When I said he sang 2 more songs, he fell off the bar stool. Boom! They had to pick him up, bring him to the back. Dead drunk. he couldn't go no more.
Well, isn't that what you pay to see? I mean, that's Hank, man. That's Hank Jr. That's what you paid to see. I wouldn't expect anything different. No, I've heard stories about him showing up doing like 5 songs and he couldn't play anymore, and people were pissed off. People were mad.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah,
favorite Hank Jr. song.
Favorite Hank Jr. song? Oh my God, they got a lot of them, but I would have to say it's the song to where no matter what bar you in, and that song comes on.
Only in South Louisiana. Only in South Louisiana. I know what song you're talking about.
South Louisiana. Okay. In South Louisiana.
Yeah.
When that song comes on, I don't care what the bar is doing. It's going to come.
Yep. Hey, man, them ain't high-heel sneakers.
Yep.
And they sure don't look like cowboy boots. That's what you're talking about, huh?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, look, for sure in South Louisiana, but I'm telling you, you could probably go in Southwest Texas, and you could probably go into Mississippi too and see. And
that
see
was
going on.
never a hit for him on the radio.
Well, it doesn't matter. I can tell you that. Oh, man, geez. But yeah, and Dinosaur. I love Dinosaur.
Well, that's Dinosaur. That's the one we're talking about. You're confusing it.
Yeah, I'm confusing with oh shoot. Oh, what's the name of that song? When he said I can spit some beach nut, that dude.
Oh, A Country Boy Can't Survive.
Country Boy Can't Survive. There you go.
So I love Dinosaur too, and it's one of my son's favorite songs because, you know, my oldest loves dinosaurs. So even though he couldn't put 2 and 2 together because he was too young, but it was still Dinosaur. So he liked that song, and Daddy could play it on guitar. So he liked that song. But I think aside from Dinosaur, I think my favorite Hank Jr. song is Good Friends, Good Whiskey, and Good Lovin'.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's how I like to live my life, man. It was, the old kind of blues shuffle type song. He had a lot of bluesy type songs that were in that same kind of format.
Right. Do you still keep up with wrestling?
No, not at all.
Okay. Because Dylan Abear and one of his little cousins and somebody else, they have a podcast.
I've seen a little bit about that, yeah.
Yeah. I was just wondering if you see. I don't keep up with it no more. I listened to it, but I didn't know what they were talking about, half of who they were talking about. So I just...
It's so... Oh, man, the business, it's just so bad now. Like, honestly, they should just collect everything that they got and cut their losses and get on out with it, man. MMA's eating their lunch. It's over.
Yeah.
It's over. The ride is over.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. And, the only, 3/4 of the people that are paying for WWE Network are not even paying it for the pay-per-views. They're not even watching the new stuff. They're just going to watch all the old archive footage of old WCW and the NWA and all that.
Right.
They're not even watching the new stuff. Nobody cares about the new stuff.
I wish I could find some footage of the old Mid-South that would play like on Channel 10.
They got some. No, they got some on YouTube. My buddy Ed can show you. He watches that stuff all the time.
Oh, yeah. Just a reminder when I was young, man.
Well, I know you can find the DiBiase's turn on JYD.
Okay.
You know, he was the best man at his wedding. How
Yeah.
could he betray him like that? You know, that's on there. They have that on YouTube. You just, you know, you have to put in the right search terms, but you'll find it.
I can remember. I don't know. You were young, so you probably don't remember because I was young. I think I might have been married, but still, I remember when Paul Orndorff. I don't think I was married, and Ted DiBiase first came out. They were battling for Mid-South for Rookie of the Year. They came out the same time, Paul Orndorff and Ted DiBiase. And I can remember that.
Well, DiBiase's father was in the business, so I imagine he won just because he had his father's push.
I don't remember. And then Paul Orndorff was, he was from Florida, I think. But then I remember when, and he didn't do very much. Cowboy Bill Watts' protege, I think that was his son, but the Oklahoma Stampeder, I forget his name.
Not Dr. Death.
Yeah, Dr. Death. Yeah. But when he first came out, he was, but.
Well, I remember you taking me to a pro wrestling event, non-televised. It was a house show. I don't even know if it was Mid-South. It certainly wasn't WCW. It wasn't one of the main brands. Dr. Death in a no-holds-barred street fight was the main event. I remember they had some midget wrestling on the card.
Oh, okay. Well, no, that's when Sierra came with.
Yes, that show.
That's at the Opelousas Yamali Festival. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was and they fell at your feet.
I remember three matches. I remember the midget wrestling. One of them was called the Karate Kid. We got his black and white photograph with his autograph on it.
Yeah.
And they would do the whole bit where the guy would pin him and he would just like bench press him right off and the referee would toss him right back on. They pulled that bit. The other match, and I don't really remember much of the match, but I remember a guy with long hair going out over the top rope, boom, 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 and we were front row seats.
Yeah.
And he hit the ground, and we were right there by the barricade, and he was trying to get up. And I remember he was like struggling a little bit. And when I looked down, my feet was on his hair. He couldn't get up because my feet was on his head. Like I had to move my feet, and I was like, "I'm sorry." And then he could get up, but like he was for some kind of way when he flew out the ring. I guess I'd maybe picked up my feet and then I put him down, and I was standing. I was like on his hair, and then that was the main event. I don't remember who he fought, but it was Dr. Death, Steve Williams. And I remember I didn't see half the fight because they were over by the concession stands, way over in the back, hitting each other with chairs and everything else. But I remember you telling me, "Oh, Dr. Death, that's the man." But I don't remember much of that. I just remember I could never see him because they were fighting across the little arena, whatever we were in, the Yambali Center, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But later on, that became Jim Ross's boy, man. Jim Ross brought him to WWF, I believe it was at the time. And if you remember, they did a thing called Brawl for All, where they tried to bring in mixed martial arts, where they did it was like a boxing tournament, but you could also get points for takedowns.
Yeah.
And the guy that ended up winning it was it was Billy Gunn or something. It was Bart Gunn's partner, Billy Gunn. Like, he ended up winning it. But Dr. Death was doing really good in that tournament, and that was JR's boy, and they were really trying to push him because the dude could throw some punches, man. He wasn't polished at all, but that was just a big dude with a lot of power.
Right. Yeah. them house shows was awesome. That was better than anything that ever on TV now.
Well, and then the crowd would also make it what it was,
yeah.
man. Because grandma, you could afford to bring grandma and papa there to raise hell. Okay, I know we got some great stories. Tell us some stories about Mid South Wrestling and everything else, and even our family and papa and all them, and raising hell on these non-televised wrestling shows.
Well, I can remember whenever I was a kid, my grandfather asked me if I wanted to go to the wrestling. I lived in Lake Charles, and we would come down every now and then. And that was probably when I got introduced to wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a kid, I don't remember ever learning to talk French. It's like you probably don't remember how you learning to talk English. You know, it's like I grew up with it. I just knew. You know, it's like English. You know, can you remember anybody teaching you English?
No.
Probably not. Okay. Well, anyway, make a long story short, I go to my grandfather. He's going to the wrestling that night. He asked me if I want to go. So I said, yeah, I'll go with you. Now, I kind of watched a little bit on TV when he'd watch it, you know. And so we went over there, and he was one of these very serious. I mean, he took this very serious. Like, it was real. Okay. And I guess I was a little naive at the time. I was probably 7 or 8 years old. I didn't know any better if it was real or not, you know. And he'd tell me he'd say, this is the pig, which meant that's the bad one, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then he'd tell me, this is the good man, this is the pig. So he would kind of tell me about it. Well, one of them fell out the ring at our feet because my grandfather only sat first row. He stuck his hand in his pocket. He said, let me catch my knife. I'm going to gut that son of a pig. But he told me in French. You know? And I'm like, no, Papa, don't do that. And I'm 7 or 8 years old, you know. Oh, no, don't do that. And finally that guy got up. But that was one of the stories. Let me tell you another one. We went to Alexandria. And Paul DiBiase,
Ted.
Yeah, Ted DiBiase. And there was, I forget that black man's name. Anyway, there was a black wrestler.
Ernie Ladd?
And no. This was, I'm not sure his name. But anyway, every time I go to a wrestler, I go meet Paul Orndorff, and he'd give me some pictures to sell for him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'd sell the pictures during the wrestling event. I'd walk around selling, especially when his match would come up. And I'd bring in the money and the rest of the pictures I had. And he'd give me some money. Like, if I'd sell 10 of them, I don't know. He'd probably give me about $10 that night. So anyway, he asked me if I knew somebody else that wanted to do it. And I said, yeah, my buddy wanted to. So my buddy said, okay. And he went and he sold for the black guy. I forgot his name, though. And no, it wasn't a black guy. It was the Hawaiian guy, Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
Snuka.
Yeah. So anyway, we watch the wrestling and we walk around. We sell the pictures, and at the end of the wrestling match, they go to the car. Mom and them's going to the car. I say, well, let me go bring Paul his money back, and you know. So I went and give Paul his money and the rest of his pictures, and he gave me like $10, and he said, "You're gonna come next week?" I said, "Yeah." And well, Chad, which was my friend, gave Jimmy Fly Snuka his pictures back, and he took a picture and he gave it to Chad, but he didn't give him no money. He said, "Here, this is for you for selling one." And so we walked to the van, and Chad was mad. And James Wedlock, which is one of our friends that they came with us, we had a big van. James Wedlock was laughing at him. He said, "You sold all them pictures and all they give you was a ugly picture of me." And Chad got mad. Chad tore it up. And James kept picking on him all the way home. "Oh, look at that. You got that picture of that ugly man. When you going to put it by your head?" And Chad didn't tell him nothing. He pulls his belt off, wraps it around his hand with the buckle in the front.
Oh, no.
And he pops James in the head. Opens up James' head a little bit. It's just a little cut, but it wasn't deep. And he opens it up. James puts his hand. He says, "Oh, you made me bleed. Now I'm gonna show you what a wedlock can do."
Oh, no.
My dad stopped the van. He was all because of that stupid picture.
And Snooker, he was cheap, boy. He didn't want to pay him. Didn't want to pay out.
And you remember that when I went to the wrestling, they always had the old black man
Ellis Beaumont or something like that.
So I don't remember what it was.
He owned a funeral home or something.
Right. You got to see him at one time.
Yeah.
Remember, we went to the casino.
Uh-huh.
You got to see him. But that old man, he would holler at the wrestlers, holler at them, and cuss them out. And
he was my favorite. He was my favorite.
He told Ernie Ladd, he said, "Big cat Ernie Ladd, you ain't nothing. Come over here. I'm going to show you. I wrestle a 700-pound bear."
He did.
I'll choke it with you.
Now,
he did.
Tell us about Ellis and the Bear. Ellis the Bear Man Beaumont, I think his name was. Something like that.
Yeah. Right. They had a little carnival or whatever, and they pay you. You could win some money if you wrestled the bear, and he did. I don't know if he won or not, but he wrestled that bear. But anyway, one night he got so drunk and was fussing with the wrestlers so much, and he started throwing like cups at them. And they told the security guard to make him leave, and the security guard come and started telling him he had to leave. Well, he caught it just like the wrestlers do. He caught him, put his hand between his legs and one on his shoulder, picked him up, and threw him down the steps. He rolled the security guard down the steps.
Oh, my God.
Oh, Lord. And then he took off. They couldn't find him no more. But the next week, he was back in the wrestling again. Well,
I know he told me he whooped Ernie Ladd's ass, is what he told me.
Well, he probably did.
He told me he whooped, because I don't remember which event it was, because you had took me to a bunch when I was a kid, and I seen him at least 2 or 3 different events.
Right.
And I remember he came up to me one time, and he said, "My name is Ellis the Bear Man Beaumont," or whatever it was. And he said, "I whooped Ernie Ladd's ass, and I whooped a 500-pound bear."
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And he, okay, so that goes into later. Like, they don't do house shows like that anymore.
Well, they still come around every now and then.
But not the big organizations.
Well, they, like Hacksaw was with them at one time. They do bring some people out, But it's not like nearly, we had sanctioned matches and all that,
Mm-hmm.
This is just people that want to try to get into wrestling. And then every now and then they bring a big, a has-been, I guess, like Hacksaw and stuff like that,
I remember when they were the WWF. I can't call it WWE. It just sounds stupid. But I think they might have still been WWF at the time. I could be wrong. I don't know. But they did a house show at the Cajun Dome. And this was at least 10, 15 years ago. And you're looking at probably actually 2006, 2007.
Right.
And you had made me the Hulk Hogan for President sign. We also had signs that said Ahmed Johnson is my hero. A bunch of out-of-date, irrelevant signs. Also had a sign that said I love Sanford and Son or something, just totally irrelevant. And in honor of Ellis and rowdy wrestling fans of the past, me and my drunk buddies showed up to this house show in the Cajun Dome, and we rose hell. We didn't know who half of these wrestlers were anymore. We hadn't been watching on a regular basis anymore, but we just wanted to go see the wrestles. Yeah. And we all got hammered. We got seats. I would say we were about the 20th row. Okay, so if you're familiar with the Cajun Dome, they had the ring right in the middle. Then you had the steel chair seating on the ground. And then you had that little section of seats before they got into the stands that they would bring for the ice skaters games. You remember the...
Right, yeah.
They were elevated, but they still weren't built into the stadium. They could still roll out, and they were collapsible.
Yep.
We were on, I don't know, we were on somewhere on that row, towards the beginning of that row, maybe like the third one of those, that type of section. And they had, one of the first matches was a triple threat match. Two of the guys had short hair. One of the guys had long hair. We were so drunk, we didn't know who any of these people were. We didn't care. So we started a chant, "Cut your hair." And the guy, like, "Cut your hair. Cut your hair." You know, so we were giving that guy crap. And then one of the guys in the triple threat match was wearing some white tights. And so we were just, you know, drunkenly screaming, "Come on, guy in the white! Let's go, guy in the white!" We didn't know any of their names or anything. And then obviously calling them the guy in the white makes them feel terrible. But we were doing stuff like that. Needless to say, after like the third match, I had to go to the bathroom. The Cajun Dome is not a huge arena, and anybody watching this can go up and look at the how how many people can fit in the building. I went to the bathroom. I went go pee. And when I got back, I was so drunk I was lost. I had no idea where I was. And when I managed to at least get back to the arena and not the concourse, and I was totally on the other side of the Cajun Dome, totally across the Cajun Dome. And I walked out, and everybody was like, hey, buddy, you're over there. You're over there. Hey, man, you're over there. Your seat's over there. And they were pointing me to the other side across from the Cajun Dome. They knew who I was because all the hell we were raising. That was good times. I wish they would still do, like, I wish WWE now, the big event, would still do house shows, non-televised house shows like that, where $20 got you in the first row.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like I said, when they come over here to the skating ring, they're some pretty good wrestlers, but I like to go just watch the crowd because, man, they got some of these people that really take it serious. They still take it serious.
They make it fun, man. It's why not? Look, that is their job, right? Their job is to draw heat. Their job is to make people crazy and cuss and spit and everything.
Yeah,
that's what they're there to do. So why not play into it? As long as, okay, if anybody's watching this and they say, well, you're coaxing people to do something unruly or whatever. As long as you keep it kid friendly, but still play into it, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, man. Play into it and give the kids a show. Those guys are supposed to be bad guys for a reason. Make them do the, they do that uppercut. You can't see the video, but they would do, like, they'd put their left hand out and they do the uppercut with the right hand, kind of like an FU type deal. Make them get pissed off and give you the business, man.
Or like little David did to Ric Flair in the show.
Oh, yeah. He told him where to go.
They threw him a shirt. You remember that?
I remember, man. I remember a bunch of those. Okay, so, man, I remember some. I don't know how many I've ever watched that were televised, but I'm gonna go ahead and run back some shows that I remember that you took me to as a kid. One of the earliest that I remember. I don't remember anybody else on the entire card, but I remember Greg the Hammer Valentine.
Uh-huh.
I remember another show you took me to, and I think it might have been in Lake Charles. I feel like this was a Lake Charles show. There was, man, when I'm about to say these names, I don't think this was televised. And so I'm about to say these names.
In Lake Charles, it wasn't televised.
There were two big matches that I only remember these two. I remember Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Ravishing Rick Rude. And Sting versus Big Van Vader.
Uh-huh.
And Sting... Go ahead.
That was in Lafayette.
That was in Lafayette?
Yeah.
Sting put Big Van Vader in the Scorpion Deathlock like 6 times. And he finally gave up. And I remember Vader, like, he was limping after the match. But that was during the big Sting and Vader feud. That was a legendary feud. And then, again, Steamboat and Ravishing Rick Rude. Those two guys in the ring, I mean, I was only a kid when I watched them, and I wish I still had video from this. Those two guys, both of those guys could work. Steamboat was incredible. Steamboat could really bring the crowd and really get the crowd motivated.
Yeah.
Who was, in your opinion, the best crowd motivator in pro wrestling history that you've seen with your own eyes? The best one that could get all the crowd on their side.
On their side or against them?
On their side. Not a bad. Well, I want the bad guy too, but right now I want the good guy. Who's the one that could rally the most people to root for them? Who is the one that could get people the most worked up and cheer for them?
Oh, shoot. I'd probably have to say maybe Hacksaw.
Really?
Yeah. Like we start chanting USA, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, man, he was something else.
Yeah. And on the bad side,
hold on. Let's talk about Hacksaw for a little bit, because when I was growing up, Hacksaw had been around for you a long time, but when I was growing up, Hacksaw was a different type of character. Like, they had made fun of him. Hacksaw was looked at kind of like a dummy. He was like a big brute with like a 20 IQ. Like, he was looked at as a dummy. And the USA chant, a lot of times, it was totally irrelevant because most of the time he was wrestling against a guy from USA too. So it was like, why was he doing that? But even still, he would still go, USA! And then the USA.
Yeah.
People would go into it, even though he was wrestling a guy that was from, I don't know, Texas or whatever. He could still bring it. He could still bring it in. He was very charismatic. But Hacksaw, I have a different impression of Hacksaw than you did, because when I was growing up, Hacksaw was presented to me as a dumbass, really, a cross-eyed dumbass.
Yeah.
But tell me about Hacksaw from your era.
Well, okay, in my era, Hacksaw almost always fought against like the Orange Sheik from Iran. So it was USA against Iran. And, you know, and that's why I say he would bring the crowd, you know, because he'd start stomping his feet, and I don't know, but
And well, Sheiky, Iron Sheik could draw so much hate, man.
yeah,
That guy was extremely good at his craft.
yeah,
Okay.
that had to be, you know.
So we're going to talk about that. Okay, who drew the most heat? Who was the most hated pro wrestler? Who could draw the most heat? I'm talking about like live action, from like going to a show and watching people want to kill them. Who was the worst? Who drew the most heat?
I don't. I don't know. Like anybody, like I said, like the Orange Sheep. I mean, because of, you know, because they posted like Iran against USA, and that's would get he would get the most response. You know, I mean, and the people would just you know, after the wrestling. You know, a lot of times they go eat together. I guarantee he had to get out of costume to go eat.
Oh yeah, he couldn't. No, they
people. You know,
I would say, okay, I think the most from my experience. Well, I don't know. This is interesting. Because I'm thinking about TV and I'm thinking about what I've experienced in person. And I guess in TV, the biggest eruption, babyface had the crowd on his side at one time, had to be Stone Cold Steve Austin. When you heard and the glass broken, and all hell broke loose, and here comes Stone Cold Steve. I mean, everybody lost their shit. Everybody was losing it. The beer was flying. This son of a bitch was out kicking everybody's ass, putting everybody in and I hated him in WCW. He was a great heel. I don't think he ever achieved what he really could have achieved, because a lot of people didn't get to see him as stunning Steve Austin in WCW, but I was watching WCW at the time, and I hated that son of a bitch. Oh, my God, he was a cold, callous son of a bitch. I didn't like him. Him and Brian Pillman as a Hollywood Blondes, those guys, oh, my God, they got my goat, dude. Oh, my God, he was so arrogant. He was a bastard. And then, yeah, go ahead.
Talking about arrogant, it was what was the name of that guy? That Mexican guy that always chewed a toothpick and he spit it out.
Oh, Razor Ramon, Scott Hall. Oh my God, one of the best gimmicks of all time. He used to be the Diamond Stud.
Yeah,
and he was always a big dude, great body, but the gimmick of it didn't work until he watched Scarface and became Tony Montana. Oh my God, he was incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, but Stone Cold Steve Austin, I think, there was Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
I mean, which is the obvious answer. Who rallied the most people as a face, as a good guy? Who rallied the most? I mean, because the kids would lose their shit for Hulk Hogan. But even the people that rooted for the bad guys would root for Stone Cold. You know what I'm saying? He had the good and bad. He had everybody rooting for him. He puts Vince McMahon in the Stone Cold Stunner several times. I mean, come on. How can you not root for the guy? I mean, he was given 2 middle fingers to the boss, and then he put him in the Stunner. I think, oh my God, who did I hate the most? Who did I think drew the? Well, okay, let's go back. Okay, so I did Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin for Good Guys, but also one more for Good Guys, like in person, of who I seen get the crowd on their side. I'm gonna go back to, I think it was WrestleMania 30. It was the one in New Orleans, the first one in New Orleans.
Yeah.
When Daniel Bryan won the championship, the yes thing, that was incredible. The Superdome, 73,000 plus, and you're talking about 73,000 plus standing on their feet doing yes, all at the same time. The yes movement, or whatever they call it. That was incredible. I hadn't seen anything like that ever before. And they were shooting out like confetti at the same time. I still have confetti in this very room from that event. Purple and gold. It was incredible. So that has got to be one of my favorite and I think best faces of all time that really got the crowd motivated with them. To look towards a villain, God, who was the most hated? You know, a guy that I absolutely could not stand, and I don't think by anybody else's standards would he be considered one of the best villains of all time. But for me, he was. I just couldn't stand the son of a bitch. And that was Lord Steven Regal.
Yeah.
How much, like, was he around when you were young?
No.
Okay. For me,
No.
he was just an arrogant son of a bitch. He was just so... He would thumb his nose in the air. He would do the thing where he would show the outside of his bicep to the camera, and he'd use his thumb and he'd push it up inside to make his arm look bigger and all that stuff. Like, he could really get your fucking goat, man.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Who took the best beating?
Oh, Cactus Jack.
Yep.
Mick Foley.
Yeah.
I was watching. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mick Foley or Cactus Jack. They're the same, but I mean.
And Mankind.
Yeah, and Mankind. Yeah, he was all three.
And Dude Love.
Dude Love.
But
Dude Love wouldn't take too much beating.
No.
Not like Mick Foley and Mankind and, oh my God, Cactus Jack.
You go back to the Undertaker Hell in the Cell. It's cool you can go search it on YouTube, them talking about the match, and they had planned that they were going to go on top of the cell.
Yeah.
But it wasn't reinforced for that. Like, they never planned for them to do that with the cell itself. So while they were walking on top of the cell, they had those metal twist ties that held the chain link fence to the actual like metal bars, and those things were popping off like popcorn. They were just flying off, and they were walking on like the chain link fence, and it was hanging like 3 feet down inside of the damn bars. If you go back and watch it, it's incredible. They could barely walk. And of course, Undertaker throws him off the top of the cell when he gets KO'd as he hits the table, and then they put him on a stretcher. He comes back off the stretcher. It's such an incredible performance. And then the Undertaker like choke slams him through the top of the whole thing is incredible. But I mean, he's taken so much stuff. But even in that Hell in a Cell match, like, people think about when he got, I think it was the choke slam, whatever, his tooth flew out and got like embedded inside his nose.
Yeah.
Like, it was incredible. He had a very bad concussion. I think he had like 2 or 3 in the same night. It was incredible. That guy, I mean, he can barely walk anymore, but he put his body on the line for his craft, and he was something special. Yes.
Left it all out there.
Who got your goat though? Who was the person you hate the most? Who do you hate the most in professional wrestling of all time?
Who I hated the most?
Yeah. To this day. Come on, somebody still got to get your goat to this day.
It's I don't know. I'll tell you the truth, because it's been so long. You know, I mean, now if you would ask me when I was younger, I could have told you, oh man, I can't. But
Yeah.
it's like, you know, I grew up realizing that, hey, you know, this is just a performance, and so it's kind of hard. I don't know. I really don't know.
I still don't like Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Even from the reality, like all the real shoot interviews that people do now from behind the scenes, they tell you about all the stories and stuff. Vince McMahon, even in the real life scenario, was still an asshole.
Yeah.
He's still an asshole. God, I didn't like Vader because of the Sting deal. Psycho Sid used to scare the shit out of me. When I was 5-6 years old, maybe a little bit younger than that, there were two characters on television that scared the absolute shit out of me. One of them was the Wicked Witch of the West. You remember who the other one was?
No.
The Undertaker.
The Undertaker. I didn't know that.
I remember watching, like, it was a pre-recorded show. It was like on a Saturday morning, and they would show the Undertaker's entrance, and I would still like go run and hide and shit, and I would close my eyes or peek through my fingers and stuff, watching the Undertaker walk to the ring because he scared the shit out of me.
Wow.
That was incredible. That guy. Did you see his interview with Joe Rogan? I know I posted a few of those videos, and for anybody watching this, you can go check it out on YouTube. Incredible story about how he got into wrestling, and he waited something like 6 to 8 months. He would go with the Von Erichs, where they in Texas. And he would just sit in the lobby, and people would walk by all the time, and he would just go once a week, and they would just walk by him and not pay him any attention. And who was the big Von Erich? Eventually, he gave him a shot, said, "Book that kid. He's big. He looks like David."
It was the dad that the Von Erich dad that said he looked like one of their sons.
Yeah, David. Right. And what a tragic story.
Yeah, he actually said, "Who is that guy? Because he looks like David." And they told him that he wanted a shot, and so he gave him a shot.
And just, I definitely point people to that story. I mean, it's such an incredible story.
Yeah.
And I know, some people don't know this, but The Undertaker was, not that he always agreed with Vince McMahon, and he'll tell you that he didn't always agree, but he was the guy. Like, he was the most respected guy in the locker room. He was Vince's muscle. He was there for the business. You didn't cross him. So as big as and as bad as he was on television and scared the shit out of me as a child, in the locker room, you didn't fuck with Taker. He was the guy that kept the locker room straight. If anybody had any beef or whatever, like, Taker sorted it out. He scared the shit out of everybody in the locker room. Nobody fucked with that dude. He was the enforcer in WWF for decades.
Right. The only one McMahon couldn't mess with, the only one that he would not listen to him, and Vince McMahon could not do anything with. I saw an interview with Vince McMahon. He said, and Hulk Hogan, that was Andre the Giant.
Well, Andre called the shots for everybody. Everybody respected Andre. It didn't matter who you were. Andre came first.
If you tell him, Andre, you got to lose, no.
Nope.
And he was no. He would not.
Yeah. How are you going to put 700-pound, 8-foot-tall man on how are you going to make him lay down?
And then when
you're not going to do it.
Retire, he called Hogan, and then he called McMahon and told him, I'm ready to retire.
Yeah.
And I'll pass on the belt to Hogan. But before that, no.
No. I mean, he called the shots. How are you going to make that dude do anything?
No.
Rene Rushkoff, I think. Something like that was his real name.
Yeah.
God, I'm trying to think back of the people I absolutely hated, and there's a bunch of them, but I'm trying to think the ones that really got my goat that I couldn't stand. I mean, I was kind of scared of Jake. I liked Jake, and I was scared of him at the same time. I remember I was probably a 9-10-year-old kid, and we had a book fair at school, and there was a pro wrestling book, and that was the only book I wanted, and there was like 10 sentences in the entire book, but it was a bunch of pictures of pro wrestling and all these WWF superstars.
Yeah.
And I sat one Saturday morning, and I got a blank piece of paper, and I got a pencil, and I looked. I didn't trace a single fucking thing. And it was a little bit off. But for a 10-year-old kid, it was a pretty fucking damn good drawing of Jake the Snake Roberts. And I don't know whatever happened to it. I mean, it went in the garbage, I'm sure.
It might be with all your books.
But it was a damn good drawing. I was like 9 or 10 years old. And it was arguably one of the best drawings I've ever done in my life. And it was of Jake. And I loved him and hated him at the same time.
You know who his dad was?
Grizzly Smith. Boy, that was a tumultuous, crazy relationship. That whole family is... Woo!
Yeah. Grizzly Smith.
But I'm proud of Jake, man. DDP Yoga, you know, he got Jake. He got Scott Hall, a.k.a. Razor Ramon, back on track. Got them dieting, gotten them to kick the habit of alcoholism. And I don't know where they are now. I haven't, obviously, honestly, I haven't paid attention in the last year or two. But I remember they were doing great. And, I mean, DDP has been... godsend for a lot of these guys. And nowadays, in modern age, guys like Scott Hall and Jake, with the internet, they might not be able to compete anymore and put on any more wrestling performances, but they can still be creators and still be active with their personalities and still be relevant.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, DDP's done so much. That's a guy that, I mean, he was a manager. You realize he didn't like start wrestling until he was almost 40. He was a manager, like well into his like mid to deep 30s. He was just a manager. Just nuts. And then there's Bobby the Brain Heenan, but we got to do that. Look. My bladder is absolutely full. I can't do this anymore. I'm like getting antsy in my chair. I gotta go.
Okay.
So we've done this for an hour and a half. I don't know if this was supposed to be on Facebook Live. I'm assuming it has been. Whether or not it worked or not, I don't know. But I do believe I'm going to have the video. I'm definitely going to have the podcast. We're going to make that available. Podomatic.com. If you have iTunes, it's the Lon Yop Show. I'm going to have this. I'm going to try to, at least. This will be posted on Minds.com and on Facebook and everywhere else I can post it. I just invited everybody to support Alt Tech, and we'll keep trying to do this show once a week if we can, from time to time. All right, man. You good?
I'm good.
All right. We'll peace out the this broadcast now.
Sounds good.
Actually, I don't know how to turn this thing off.